Hi, I'm Seth Webster, and this is a Fresh Take. What I want to talk to you today about is Management 3.0's technique called Moving Motivators. Now, really, it's a game that you play with colleagues. You can play the game with your upper management. You can play the game with your teammates or direct reports. I found the most value in colleagues and direct reports in playing this game. So if you had to prioritize, I'd prioritize with teammates first and then colleagues. So what is it? Well, Moving Motivators is a game created by Jürgen Appello based on works from Daniel Pink, Stephen Reese, Edward Deasy that talk about motivations in people. And it's always good to know what motivates your people, but there's a way for you to explicitly have that conversation in a fun and open, productive way. And Moving Motivators is what allows that facilitation. So Jürgen Appello created 10 motivators based on intrinsic and extrinsic motivators from that data that he pulled together and gamified it. So first, let's talk a little bit about intrinsic and extrinsic motivators, just real high level here. There's tons of books and information that go into this deeply. But from just a top level approach, intrinsic motivations are people's innate desires to do well and to have an eagerness for self-control, self-direction in accomplishing objectives. It's successful intrinsic motivation is really the result of the fulfillment of someone's basic desires. Extrinsic motivation is anything external, right? So external rewards such as payments, bonuses, promotions, awards that are attributed to an accomplishment are external motivators. Now, moving motivators is a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. And it's 10 motivators based on an acronym called CHAMPFROGS. That's right, CHAMPFROGS. And so let's go through real quick what each of the motivators are, and then we'll unpack them a little bit. So CHAMPFROGS. C is for curiosity. H is for honor. A is for acceptance. M is for mastery. P is for power. F is for freedom. R is for relatedness. O is for order. G is for goal. And S is for status. So what do they each mean? Well, the 10 CHAMPFROG motivators are either intrinsic or extrinsic or a bit of both. And I want you to keep in mind that while we're going to go over these explanations for each one and the moving motivator cards themselves, which you can get access to and links that I'll provide, give a description of what the motivator is. But the most important thing is for you to take a few minutes before starting the exercise with a direct report or colleague and define what each motivator means to you. So look at them, read over them, discuss what they mean, and then begin the actual exercise. That way, you guys are on the same page about what they mean. So curiosity is the first one, and it basically means I have plenty of things to investigate and to think about. Honor, I feel proud that my personal values are reflected in how I work. Acceptance is the people around me approve of what I do and who I am. Mastery is my work challenges my competence, but is still within my abilities. Power, there's enough room for me to influence what happens around me. Freedom is I'm independent of others with work and my responsibilities. Relatedness is I have good social contacts with the people in my work. Order is there are enough rules and policies for a stable environment. Goal, my purpose in life is reflected in the work that I do. And status, my position is good and recognized by the people who work with me. Now, immediately as hearing some of these, you probably value some of those more than the other. And it's easy for us to assign value to the things that motivate us. But when you lay it out in a moving motivator exercise, then it really brings to light and visualizes an explicit motivational hierarchy and then the impact of change on your motivations. And if you do this exercise by yourself first and kind of document those results, then when you do it with a teammate, you have a really good dialogue and conversation. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, let's get into the mechanics. How do you use moving motivators? Well, the CHAMPFROGS model deals specifically with the context of work life. You can use it in other contexts, but for what we're going to discuss here, think of the context of work life. There's really just two steps in doing it. The first step is to have your teammate define the most important motivators to them. The second step is to discuss how change impacts their motivation. So step one, broken down a little bit more, is you give the 10 moving motivator cards, CHAMPFROGS, to the teammate. And then they lay out their motivators from left to right, with the left being the least important motivators and the right being the most important motivators. And this will be different for everybody. But you go from the left, least important, and it increasingly gets more and more important until the motivator card, the champ frog on the right, is the most important motivator to that individual. If you do this in advance for yourself, then this gives you the opportunity to dialogue in a compare contrast. And you'll find how different everybody's motivations are in doing the exercise. What's really cool is that you spend time after this step discussing those motivators. Why did they lay them out that way? Why is this more important to them than this other one? And it's not to question them or to debate, right? The value of these motivators, their value comes from the individual themselves. But when you give them the opportunity to discuss the why behind their hierarchy of these motivators, you get a much deeper insight into why that motivates them in the way that it motivates them, why it's important to them. And you not only see what's important to them, but you understand why it's important to them. So then you move on to step two. And step two is then taking those, leaving them in the same order. And I would highly recommend you record the order they put it in so that you have it as a reference in the future. But the real value in this exercise is after having them in the importance hierarchy, least to most, left to right, you then have them discuss change as it impacts their motivation. So what I like to do is, at minimum, find something recent in their work life where there was significant change. Might have been moved to a new team, might have been a promotion, might have been a new job, might have been becoming your direct report, something along those lines. Anything that was significant change in their work life is recent as possible. That way it's still fresh on the mind. What you have them do is they go through each Champ Frog motivator, and if that change that they experienced had a positive impact on the motivator, they slide it up. If it had no real impact on the motivator, they leave it where it is. And if it had a negative impact on the motivator, they would move it down. And so, for instance, if they were originally on a team and they got moved to another team and there's a transfer in title as it relates to that, that would impact potentially the status motivator. And if the title was for better, or if they lost a title and that was a motivator for them, then losing the title might have motivated them more because they didn't care about it anyways and they felt pressured by it. Or alternately, they might have been demotivated because it was a title or status that they had that they've now lost with that change. Or title didn't matter to them to begin with. It doesn't matter to them now. No change. And so what they do is they go through each one of those and they move it up or down. Now, not every significant event is going to impact a motivator. It's always context specific, but you do look at the ones that it did impact and you see if they're up or down. And then generally what you look at here is more cards moved up is a motivating change. More cards moved down is a demotivating change. But you need to be careful with this because it is possible. Like, let's say I move 3 cards up as positive motivators. These were a positive impact on these motivations, but they're the 3 leftmost cards in my motivation hierarchy. So the 3 most least, or the 3 least important motivators. But then on the right-hand side, I was demotivated in the 2 most important motivators. So even though you'll have more cards in the up position in that scenario and less cards in the down position, the hierarchy means that these are more impactful. And so it still might be a demotivating decision or change that they experienced, even though they have more positive motivators in that scenario. So you want to look at it in both contexts. So what's really the best part of this game, going from here are the motivators that we're going to discuss explicitly to here's how those motivators rank in my perspective, and here's how those motivators are impacted by change. The best part of this game is twofold. You have this open, honest dialogue about what motivates you. You're sharing yours, they're sharing theirs. And that is just valuable beyond, you can't put a return on investment on that. You're going to reap benefits from that as long as you're in relationship with that individual. And that dialogue is non-combative. It's not comparative as far as my values are better than your values. I'm not asking you to adopt a vision or a value system that is different than what you are comfortable with. I'm seeking to understand what it is that motivates you. And then beyond that is you can then use these dialogues to discuss upcoming change. So if you document what their motivators are, then in one-on-ones when change is occurring, or if they have change going on, even in their life maybe, that impacts their work, you can use this as a tool to figure out, well, where are we with this? How are you in this? Are you negatively motivated? Are you demotivated? Are you positively motivated? So it becomes a real active working tool in your tool set as a manager to better understand your individuals, what motivates them, and current things that are happening in their circumstances that will have some kind of impact on it so that you can fully grasp what it is that they're experiencing instead of guessing at it or ignoring it outright. The last thing is that I want to share is the value that I've gotten from this tool is managing up. So a lot of times significant change comes top down. As much as we'd like people to be involved in the change that impacts them, it's not always the case. And sometimes it is a top down decision. And what I've been able to do, even in confidential scenarios where I couldn't discuss the upcoming change with my direct reports for reasons, what I was able to do was to recapture those conversations that I had had with them on their motivators, pull up their motivators that I have and simulate what I think would be the impact on their motivations, and then be able to then share that objectively. It's a bit subjectively because you're not doing it with the direct individual, but you share that up with your leadership to say, look, I know what motivates my people. And here's specifically the things that I believe will demotivate them in this decision, or the things that I think will motivate them in this decision. You can use that in review processes, compensation conversations, moving to a different team, changing their main responsibilities, project shifts, anything along those lines. Now, ideally, you would be able to have that conversation with the individual or your team as a whole, which is a fun exercise to do when you talk moving motivators with the entire team. I always encourage my teammates to share these learnings with each other so that we all had a better understanding of how we relate to one another and how we relate to the context of our work. So ideally, you could have those dialogues and conversations with your teammates and then report that back up. But when you have a consistent and concise tool that can speak the language of motivational impacts on your team, yourself, your individuals, as it relates to change that's going on or change that is coming or change that has occurred, it really empowers you to help people understand and gives you the ability to manage well. Well, I hope you see the value of this tool and that you give it a try. If you do, let me know. Put comments wherever you're watching this video, or shoot me an email at sethmichaelwebster@gmail.com. Find me on LinkedIn. And for more information on Moving Motivators, you can go to management30.com, specifically find the Moving Motivators section. And if you're on the Moving Motivators page, which I'll put links to all this below, then you can scroll down to the bottom of Moving Motivators and download a free PDF. They're also available for purchase, and they're pretty high quality, really nice cards. So it's good to have a set if you can make the purchase. Otherwise, download them for free. I believe Miro even has templates available for you to use, and other tools out there like Confluence, they might have templates. But I highly encourage you to give this a shot. Try it and see how it impacts you. I really believe it's going to motivate you. Thanks.